along with the quote unquote official numbers. I don't really have much in terms of announcements. Again, mostly for the viewers that might be watching this later. We may or may not be taking off the 23rd and the 30th just because of holidays, but I'll let you know. Other than that, unless any of you guys have any announcements, I think we're ready for the captain's log.
Alrighty then. Captain's log, stardate 54870.6. It has been 3 weeks since we were forced to destroy the creature that took over the ship's holo-emitter system. Since then, Mirthrin and his team have worked tirelessly to install new failsafes to ensure that such a thing doesn't happen again. It seems a running theme with starships with holodecks that they will eventually malfunction and strange things will run amok. I've had cause to distrust them before, but now, Anyways, Jisa has informed me that there has been a sharp increase in shipboard romances. Apparently, this is normal after such an occurrence of shared public panic that the crew has come to dub the Hollow Hell. I've asked Commander Pinnock to monitor crew performance just in case they are unable to handle themselves in a professional manner. In the meantime, we are charting a Sol-class system, with nothing out of the ordinary aside from some anomalous chromium-50 deposits. Such a thing was useful about 7 years ago, or about 15 years ago, during the Shackleton Expanse Exploration Initiative, but has fallen out of use with recent technological advances.
All right, very good. I think it's 7, but it might be 15. I forget which. Anyway.
I don't remember. I sort of was guessing.
Yeah. We'll worry about that later. Anyway, so we start our session with it being midway through Alpha Shift. All of you are at your posts, whether that be on the main bridge, in sickbay, main engineering, or somewhere else entirely. So far, it's been a fairly quiet and sedate shift. Nothing's really going on except for the scans of a planet designated 8VES3, the last planet to be scanned in the 8VES system. This particular world is a Class Y demon planet that contains a myriad of useful minerals, isotopes, and other such raw materials. If it weren't for the fact that the planet's surface being a demon world was completely inhospitable to any humanoid life, you might have already taken some samples, if not replenished your stores completely. So we, of course, open up with you all in your separate positions. And is there anything anyone would like to do before I give you guys a push?
I'd like to meet with Jessa and kind of get a list of who she think is, knocking boots, so that way I can keep an eye, know who to look out for.
Okay. We'll say for sake of argument, you can do that right from your console. She'll provide you a list of about, we'll say about 15 to 20 crewmen. So far,
probably already knows who the ones in engineering are.
Exactly. I would say that they're pretty spread out across the ship. They're not like all one particular department. And even though it's been some time, if you were to cross-reference the names that you're given with the performance logs and the duty reports, so far it doesn't seem like it's a problem.
If my name is on the list, sir, that is just rumor. I don't know.
Luckily, Locke, you are not on the list.
I mean, it's as one of the only 2 Booleans on board, people are they're shipping Ensign Barra, and it's getting a little embarrassing.
Shipping what, Lieutenant?
Well, Booleans don't have relations with other races, other species particularly well. It's hazardous. And so since there's only 2 of us on board, obviously there's just pressure for us to care of.
This is a slang term short for relationship.
Yes, I believe so.
I'll have to make note of this.
Oh dear, we've taught the Vulcan the concept of shipping. No one is safe.
Oh dear.
Well, I did have an idea for the next cultural night, if I can be so bold.
I'm all ears.
Well, it is, well, according to the one of the star date calendars I used, it is beginning of April-ish. So we're actually getting really close to International Tabletop Star Date. So that might be nice to have a board game night in the duck. Board games are what people did before they had holodecks for entertainment.
I am quite adept at Calto.
I used to be pretty darn good at 3D chess.
See, excellent. That'd be
However, once you start getting into fourth dimensional tic-tac-toe, that's where you start losing me.
I'll make a note of that. I believe Catan Planet is also quite popular.
Oh, the Settlers of Catan. Yes, I've heard of that.
Yes,
something about building railways?
Yes. Yeah, Ticket to Hyperlane was...
Never played it.
Yes. The Catan, a sentient race of interstellar board games that fly between systems and eat stars.
Well, I'll see what I can replicate.
Just as a kind of a reminder, Panek, I think you actually had something in mind already for the upcoming board night, or not board night, cultural night.
It can be postponed if something more fun comes up, but I've kind of created this is out of character, a Vulcan holiday, since most of the Vulcan holidays seem to be either about sitting in silence all day or having sex. So I've kind of created a race that takes place on the holodeck. There's a Roman festival for horse racing in honor of Mars. I've kind of converted that to Vulcan mythos.
Interesting.
So it'd be like a death race over deserts and mountains?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, Beckett would be down with horse racing.
Well, they're not horses. They're giant green fanged with poison claw cats.
Oh, well, I'm sure it would be explained like you just did of it's like the Roman circus. It's, horse races, things like that. Oh yeah, I'm in. And then when he sees the giant fanged green cats, he's like, these are not horses, guys.
Well, the good news is you guys have some time to think about it. It'll come up a little bit later in the session, but you guys have time to deliberate on which one you want to do. In any event, sometime probably about 20 minutes after the start of the session, like in world time, Shatsu kind of looks over at Panek from her station, and she just kind of calls over, Lieutenant Commander, do you have a moment?
I do, and I'll walk over to her console.
Oh, very good. If it's not too much trouble, I was hoping you could either attend or assist with one of my training sessions that I hold every Tuesday. Attendance is still good, but I feel like if I had someone like you or another high-ranking bridge officer attend and or assist, my students would be perhaps a bit more punctual and or might learn something that I am unable to provide.
I see no reason why I could not attend. If necessary, I could assign duty shifts or extracurricular projects to any officers that you think need extra work.
Well, I mean, after our recent Hollow Hell experience, I've strongly encouraged everyone on the ship to at least attend some form of security training, or at the very least a briefing. But tell you what, I can get you names of the people who haven't attended such things yet, and I'll let you make the call whether or not to make official orders for them to show up to my training sessions.
I will take that under advisement, thank you.
Oh, well, thank you, Lieutenant Commander. And it's at this point, Locke, your console begins beeping.
Okay, I pull that up.
All right,
Oh,
so your readings, based on the sensors, is there's a ship headed in your direction at warp speed, and it'll drop out of warp in about 3 minutes.
Can I just determine what type of ship? Like the transponder, warp signature?
I would say this warp signature is not something you've seen before or anything that would match up with things on the computer records. So this is very much an unknown.
Captain, detecting an unknown warp signature, bearing 3 minutes away.
Are they heading to intercept?
Are they?
It's how do I want to say this? They're definitely headed in your direction, but whether or not they're going to more or less drop right out of warp in front of you, or if they're just simply headed towards the system itself, you would have to let them get a little bit closer to be sure.
It's still too far out to tell, but they're definitely heading in this direction. Could be passing us by or heading for the system.
Very well. It's about time we discover some sort of life in potentially indigenous life into this sector. Keep scanning them. Let's not present an aggressive front in case they are friendly and wish to open a dialogue.
I believe standard procedure, Captain, is to preemptively raise shield when an unknown vessel enters a system with us in it.
That is a very well. Let's raise shields. If I'll raise shields, keep weapons down.
Yellow alert?
No, yellow alert is a little too hostile at the moment. I want to know what we're dealing with before raising crew's readiness.
Shatsu just kind of nods her head and says, "Aye, sir. Shields are up."
In the meantime, keep scanning them. As you get more information, please let me know, Mr. Locke.
Yes, sir.
All right. So you have an option here of doing a long-range scan. And I'll lay it out for you so you know whether or not you want to attempt this or, wait till they're closer. So a long-range scan here would be a Control plus Science, assisted by the Ophion Sensors plus Science. And due to the range and some other factors, the difficulty here would be a 4.
Oof. Don't have much in the way of momentum yet.
Yeah, you've got nothing in the momentum department at the moment.
I think. Well, I might as well give it a try. Might roll really well.
Okay.
Let's see.
So
if I fail, I just don't detect anything. Let's see.
Yeah, I gotcha. Who's going to roll for the ship?
I can do that.
Okay.
Sensors plus...
Science.
Sense. That was a control or reason?
Control.
Ship doesn't have any focuses that will apply here, I don't think.
Oh, it automatically applies. It's a department.
Right.
Yeah. If you roll under the department, yeah. So unfortunately, there's no help from the ship.
Focus scans is my focus, probably.
It ain't an Intrepid class.
Ooh, oh man, you got close. I'll give you something. Since you did crit and you got 3, I'll still give you something. Again, you'd have to let them get closer and or drop out of warp to be 100% sure. But Locke, you're about 90% confident that the vessel is made out of some form of chronodite nitrium alloy with possibly some form of magnesite plating. To kind of explain the technobabble, the chronodite nitrium alloy typically renders whatever is constructed of it partially invulnerable to photon torpedoes, and really the only way to destroy it is by a concentrated particle beam. And the latter, the magnesite plating, typically shields whatever, again, it's surrounding from most sensors and all transporter function.
So it's like natural shielding.
Mm-hmm.
A very heavily defended thing, whatever it is.
Okay. Whatever is coming at us looks like it's built for war, or at least to survive one. I'm going to order yellow alert.
Okay, so bridge lights go to yellow alert, across the ship, everything, turns a nice shade of yellow. And, of course, everyone starts to rush towards their appropriate duty stations.
Yep.
Can we hail them while they're... Do I want to hail them or not? Let's not hail them.
I think
Let's
we
wait.
hail them, Captain.
Okay. This ship is... Whatever's coming is obviously built for a fight, one way or the other. Do we want to announce our presence, or do we want to see what their intentions are?
I think we should err on the side of caution and let them. If the ship is as aggressive as we anticipate it to be, we need as much information as possible, and opening up a line of dialogue with these people may give us the relevant information needed.
Yes?
We could position ourselves on the far side of the planet. They might not have detected us yet. They are at the extreme long range. And that way, if they do drop out, we have the opportunity to get a little bit more information before we make a move.
2 valid options, Captain.
Very well. I prefer a more passive observation approach at first. Miss Sona, if you could place the planet between us and the incoming ship, that would be a good idea. And let's keep scanners as they drop out of warp. Let's keep scanning them, and we'll try and figure out what their intentions are.
Question, sir. Should I park us above the polar orbit where the... crap, I can't remember the name of it.
Where the magnetic where the
Magnetosphere?
Yeah,
the
that one.
magnetospheres. Oh yes, this is a demon. This is a Class Y planet. Their magnetic storms are very potent. That would be a very prudent course of action.
Aye, sir. Putting us in a polar orbit.
And let's take us down to as close as to where our sensors are still effective, but where as close to the atmosphere as our shields and hull can take.
I can certainly do that, sir. So the Ophion, at Sona's urging, begins to slowly and very carefully descend towards the atmosphere of the planet. Obviously not enough to break it.
Beep, beep, beep.
As you...
Merthrend, Captain, is there a reason we're diving into a magnetic storm?
Yes, Mr. Locke shall relay the sensor data down to engineering so that you can see what's coming at us.
All right.
Beep, beep.
Whatever's coming looks built for war, and we are taking a cautious approach.
Captain.
Yes, Mr.
Merthrend will start just sort of running the info through his knowledge of engineering to see if there's anything weird about the makeup that he can spot.
Before we get to Panek, I'd say Merthrend. Of course, you would know what I just said about the alloy and the plating. But as far as you know, it's not an uncommon way to do it. It's just, if the Federation, for example, were to try to replicate this sort of ship design or makeup, it would be very costly.
From the looks of things, it's definitely looks like it's designed to be resilient even without shields.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait until it gets closer to find out anything else.
Agreed. I'm sorry, Mr. Panek, what were you going to say?
Well, I believe that the choice to err on the side of caution is prudent. This culture is unknown to us, and so any actions we take could have negative connotations to them. If they were to discover us hiding from them, they could possibly assume some sort of nefarious reasoning behind it, or even something benign. I just wanted to remind you that these people are unknown to us, so therefore their culture and their sensibilities are also unknown.
I take that into consideration, Mr. Panek. But it's there. No matter which way we go about first contact, this against a ship with this type of profile, any action or inaction poses risk. I'm just erring on the side of caution in this instance, and if they prove irrational, they may start shooting at us. Either way, but I'm hoping that they prove rational and will understand our cautious intent. And once they're out of warp, and we can get a good scan of them, and then we can determine whether or not to break cover and initiate peaceful diplomacy.
I wish for such an end to this as well. However, I hope us coming out of our blind here does not provoke them into attack.
There's an old Earth saying, something about time will tell. Something about, I don't know why clocks would talk, but it seems very appropriate in this situation.
All right, so it's probably actually about now, as all this conversation is going on, that the alien ship does drop out of warp. And Locke, if you would like to attempt another scan, even with you being in the magnetosphere, I'll say the difficulty is only a 3. So it would be the same control plus science roll for you, and still sensors plus science for the Ophion.
Alrighty. Sensors plus science.
Oh,
that's the wrong name.
Wow.
Wow. So that's 1 momentum already. Let's see if
the ship can bring in another one.
Come on, Ophion.
Nope.
All right.
Damn it, Ophion.
Well, not a science vessel.
Yeah.
True.
So
And you parked it in a magnetic storm.
yeah. So Locke, you're actually going to get a few more bits of information. And remember, if you want to know more, you can spend that momentum you just got to ask a question. So what you get is, again, you get the reinforced reading about the alloy and the plating. In addition, you are detecting a Pergeum power source that their impulse reactors seem to be running on. Now again, for the uninitiated, the Pergeum is a fairly common radioactive element used by thousands of worlds as a power source. However, you can't really get a good scan of their main warp core, either because it's too heavily shielded or it is just not something that is registering on your sensors. It's really hard to tell. Finally, what you get is that the number of life forms aboard this ship is about 90. So there's about 90 of whatever they are. And to describe the ship, well, I guess I should ask, would you put this up on the view screen or not?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So before you on the view screen is a ship about the same size as the Ophion. The main body is like one long pointed blade outfitted with golden-colored external plating. 2 pylons jut out from near the rear of the ship, and they are joined by an arc that extends out of the back of the pylons. It is most definitely not something any of you have seen before, and the database of the computer is not returning anything useful. And I actually have a handout. Obviously, this is something on the surface, but that's basically what you're looking at.
When you mentioned their energy core, you said there was something that anomalous with it that we weren't detecting?
More that it's... You can't really get a good scan on it through the magnesite plating and whatever extra kind of shielding they have around the core.
Well, that's definitely a warship.
I do not believe we should make such assumptions.
You could say the same thing about us.
I mean, we are a warship, so...
Yes.
Yes.
As a science officer, I do get the one free... I'm going to use the sensors. I get 1 free momentum for information spent.
Okay.
I would like to find out what type of life they are. Can I find... Are they, like, carbon-based life forms?
Yeah, I got you. I would say that they are indeed carbon-based life forms, and again, you actually have to see them in person to be sure, but you're hazarding a guess that they're probably humanoid, just like you guys are.
Senior Chief Thin. Captain takes precedence, go ahead.
any sign that their defensive or offensive systems are active?
I'll give that to you as a freebie. Shatsu will report, no sir, I'm not detecting any form of shielding active or any powering of weapons, though granted the magnesite plating is making it a little bit difficult to determine.
Senior Chief Thin, considering what we know of their hull composition and power source, and taking into account the abundance of minerals on the Steeman-class planet, are they perhaps here to acquire material?
So Thin thinks about it for a moment and says, I believe it might be possible, sir. I, of course, am not 100% familiar with the materials at play, but I think that they could very well land on such a planet and commence mining operations.
Shall I initiate hailing frequencies, Captain?
Absolutely. Helm, please raise us from the atmosphere so that we are plainly visible. Once that happens, let's initiate first contact procedures.
Aye, sir. So, as the Ophion rises up out of the magnetosphere, Locke and Shatsu will at the same time realize that the alien vessel is scanning the Ophion.
We're being
No
scanned,
surprise.
sir.
Well, we scanned them first. It's only fair.
All right.
Mr. Panek, please open hailing frequencies.
Hi, Captain.
So, actually, they actually get in the hail before Panek can even push the button.
They are hailing us, Captain.
Very well. On screen.
All right. So as the view screen switches to show the interior of the alien vessel, you see several odd-looking beings. They are humanoid in nature, with chitinous skin and a spiraled shell-like protrusion that extends back up behind their heads. They wear uniforms that flow around their features and keep them modest, even by Orion standards. Their leader, or so you're guessing based on them being prominent and center on the screen, rises from her seat and says, I am Escavi of the Xavoise Conglomerate. To whom do I have the pleasure of addressing?
I'm Captain Barton Skull of the USS Prometheus, representing the United Federation of Planets.
That's the Ophion.
The USS Ophion, I apologize. I was reading the Prometheus on the diagram. USS Ophion, representing the United Federation of Planets.
I see, and what is your business in this system?
We have recently begun an exploration effort into this sector of space. We are simply scanning and charting worlds as we encounter them. Have we intruded on your civilization's borders in any way, shape, or form?
Not particularly. The third house of the Gem Media Corporation has mining rights to the third planet, which you are currently orbiting. Have you taken anything from the planet?
No, we have. Our ship is ill-equipped to enter the atmosphere. We have only performed scans of the system.
Oh, very good. In that case, I don't see any reason that if you were so inclined to acquire said minerals, perhaps we can make a deal, as our ship is very much designed to mine such a planet.
That is a very intriguing proposal. And what... you have obviously scanned our ship, as we have scanned yours. Is there anything beyond words or data that you might be interested in? Keep in mind, of course, that we are unable to share certain technologies until a proper treaty is formed, but I see no harm in either offering a tour to your species or perhaps just demonstrating our peace and good nature.
She turns and says something to one of her subordinates that the universal translator doesn't quite catch. It's kind of like how Klingons somehow get through Klingonese even with the universal translator going on. And the subordinate replies back again in some unknown language. And Xavoise just kind of nods her head and says, I believe it prudent that one of us, either yourself or myself, shall meet aboard the other's vessel for both a tour and formal negotiations.
That sounds perfectly reasonable. We shall commence deliberations, and we'll contact your ship shortly.
Of course.
Our ship has a technology that allows instant transportation from one ship to another. I can offer you to be transported aboard this vessel, or if you have that technology, fantastic. We just would like, if you wish to save a shuttle ride, you're more than welcome to do so.
Small out of character reminder, transporting isn't going to work with their ship.
Of course it's not, but, fair enough.
Yes. Because of the shielding.
Transporters. That's what I get for nodding off. Apologies.
That's fine. So Xavoise replies, I would be interested to see this technology. Whenever you're done with your deliberations, please hail us again. In the meantime, we will be heading down to the surface of the planet.
Wonderful. We shall speak shortly.
All right. View screen cuts off.
Captain.
All right. Let me guess, Mr. Panek, you are going to raise various security concerns over the captain heading to an alien vessel with unknown intent, completely unguarded and unarmed?
Not quite, Captain. I was going to suggest that since they are clearly from this area or this region of space, that as part of their dealings, maybe we could receive some stellar cartography maps from them.
I was thinking the same thing, Exo. They represent a civilization that obviously has been in this neighborhood for some time. They seem peaceful, but their ship is, and it's not. We should not be one to judge a book by its cover, so to speak. But even their mining vessel bears a very aggressive stance to it.
However, I would also like to remind you to please be cautious. And I suggest that you would take Lieutenant Shatsu with you as a escort.
When we contact them again, I shall see if they're willing to accept an accompaniment. In the meantime, let's double down and make sure. Let's secure this ship for a grand tour. If I'm to head over there, please alert our Federation Diplomatic Corps representative on board to be present during the initial meetings. And we'll go. It's about time that she does some proper work, rather than just down there in the science department cleaning beakers or whatever she's doing.
All right.
And in the meantime, Mr. Panek, may I see you in my ready room, please?
Aye. Lieutenant Sorna, you have the bridge.
Aye, sir. So, you guys walk into the captain's ready room, and what do you say?
Mr. Panek, I thank you for your tireless devotion to ensuring that I am reminded of Federation procedures, and I realize that I'm still very, very green under the captain's uniform. However, once I've made my decision to proceed, I would prefer that you do not question my command decisions on the bridge in front of the senior officers.
It's not my intention to cast doubt on your decision, merely to offer other solutions.
Agreed. And the time for other solutions was when Lieutenant Locke, yourself, and us were evaluating the situation. But when I decided to descend into the magnetosphere, I had made my decision and accepted the risks that would come with it.
I was not intending to disregard that decision or try to change it. I even mentioned that it was wise to err on the side of caution.
Agreed.
I
And
was also reminding you that these people were unknown to us, and therefore their thoughts and actions were unknown.
precise. Yep. And that's also what I had come to, sir, Mr. Panek. However, the way that it was phrased to me came across as more of a challenge rather than advice, further advice being offered.
I have no intention of challenging your position, Captain. This is not a Klingon vessel.
I appreciate your honesty, and I understand that Vulcans and Trill have very different communication styles. I apologize if I've come across as harsh.
Captain, if I may, my constant gerrymandering about protocol and regulations is not in order to placate something within myself or try and protect you. It is part of my duty towards the crew that I have to protect.
And a duty that you have performed tirelessly and without error.
Which is what I strive for.
Very well. Indeed. Let's, if you have any advice that you wish to give after an order has been given, please make a mention to me in private in the future.
I will try to, Captain, as long as the situation permits such a convenience.
Thank you. Dismissed.
Hi, Captain.
So just as a sidebar, it's always interesting to see how the characters themselves interpret what's going on. It's interesting, little bit of conflict, a little bit of tension, but you guys are handling it very well.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
So I'll call. We'll take as many life readings as we can. Send them down to Beckett, who has his xenobiology expertise. Let's. In all honesty, I think I want to just call a quick staff meeting just to talk about things, and then we'll go from there. If that's all right with the GM and the people.
Yeah, I'm fine with senior staff meeting. I'm assuming that means literally everyone, all the players. Would your supporting character Zareed be present?
Yes. She'll be present along with Jisa.
Along with Jisa, okay.
I'll take her opinions into account, as she is an interpersonal expert as well.
All right, so just give me a few
Mertrin's
moments.
just hovering, extremely interested in the ship itself, because it does have some really interesting things with material science.
All right, give me one moment
I'll
to
reach
get...
all my sensor reading.
One moment as I move all these tokens around. Kicking myself for not doing this sooner. All right, there's Beckett, there's Panek, there's Locke, there's Zareed, there's Jasa. Okay. So I will move you onto this map, and I'll move the tokens around as we converse. Obviously, the alien is not here yet, so she needs to go bye-bye. But yeah, all of you should be seated around the table. Like so. And yeah, it's your senior staff meeting. I'll let you run it.
Merthrin, have you done something new with your hair?
Not particularly, sir.
You just seem cheerful or younger today. Anyways. I'll put on display all the ship schematics, what we've seen of the alien creatures, and replay the message of first contact with everyone involved.
Okay.
And I will say, okay. Thoughts. We've seen a little bit about them. Merthrin, can you please give me an analysis of Merthrin and Locke, can you please tell me their ship's capabilities? They're obviously very durable. But
Tell them their ship's capabilities?
I would say, based on what you've learned so far, they use a what would be the equivalent of a disruptor bank, so that they have medium to close range weapon capability, but they don't seem to possess anything long range like photon torpedoes or things of that nature. You're also hazarding a guess. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, which, given the way their ship's constructed, that would make sense. They look like they've developed in a way which renders long-range torpedoes a bit of an ineffective weapons choice.
Indeed. Another thing of note is that, and again, this is mostly a guess because you can't get a coherent reading on their warp core, but just based on their power output, you're guessing their maximum speed is probably about warp 5.
Mm-hmm. Slow but sturdy.
Mm-hmm.
Probably also means they're fairly local. They're not going to be traveling.
While taking into account the composition of the vessel, it is far too easy to assume that they are, at first glance, a war vessel. But as we've seen, they are quite sturdy and capable of entering the atmosphere of a Demon-class planet. It could be that these technological advancements were made specifically for these kinds of functions.
Agreed.
And conversely, since their defenses are strongest at far range, if they were a warship, they'd have some sort of long-range armaments to take advantage of that.
Or at the very least, probably more weapons.
Yes.
Very well. Our
What's their
Mr.
shield
Beck-
technology like, from what we can tell?
To answer about their shield technology, it is, without spoiling too much, it's about the same as the original Enterprise, so like Constellation-class shielding. It's definitely not the advanced, amazing shields that the Ophion has.
But respectable.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And their sensor scans, were their sensor scans equivalent to ours or inferior?
I would say close, but slightly inferior.
A little hard to tell through the interference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So so it appears that our first contact is with one of their civilization's mining freighters. If it's high, they identified themselves as a corporate vessel rather
They're
than
House of the Indian Corporation.
correct. So it's unlikely we've met their species exploration or warships. Mr. Beckett, what do you make of their physiology based on what we've seen? Will we have to make any allowances for them for their shipboard tour?
Can I make a xenobiology roll to see what I can tell just from the pictures?
You certainly can. That would be a very basic reason plus science, or reason plus medicine in your case. And I'm going to set the difficulty here to 0, so free momentum.
Alrighty.
Captain, in regards to the tour, as this is a first contact scenario, and I defer to our diplomatic envoy in this regard, in order to prevent such unfortunate incidents as have happened in the Federation's history, I suggest we do not allow any scanning technology aboard the Ophion.
Agreed. We know very little about them, and likewise they know very little about us. I think an observation tour would be best. Obviously restrict them from mission critical and sensitive areas of the ship. A quick look through the bridge and engineering should be sufficient, I would think. Just make sure they don't start interfacing with our systems.
I would recommend not showing them the engineering. We don't need to give them too much, just the diplomatic tour, non-essential.
Maybe keep the multi-vector assault mode as a trump card.
Very well. Still, would be nice to show them something. What about Astrometrics Lab?
You could show them that.
Yes, that would be a good opener for them to share data and fill in any astrometrics data that we may be missing from this sector.
So, small note here before we get too out of hand. Beckett, with your role, you are able to determine that the aliens, or the Xavoise, as they are apparently called, are capable of breathing your atmosphere. However, their atmosphere on their ship is a little bit hazardous to quote-unquote alpha quadrant species in Starfleet. It's nothing you can't handle with a very small injection, but you wouldn't definitely recommend staying too long. But when I say too long, I mean like weeks or months, not like days or hours.
Okay. Captain, as far as I can tell by, I would say sight unseen, but sight is really all I have seen. Chances are they would be fine with our atmosphere. We, however, would probably not do well in prolonged stays in their atmosphere without proper precautions. But as far as a tour goes, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be able to.
Very well. I'm now going to have to talk to myself. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's the best kind.
Miss Zareed, based on what little you've seen of them, what sort of assumptions can you make about their, at least this particular ship's makeup? Well, Captain, based on how they introduced themselves, they seem to at least be a relatively peaceful society. Whether or not all of their ships are built in this fashion or not, it's unclear. They carry themselves relatively openly. They do not. They were not wearing much in the way of armor, denoting a potentially peaceful society. Unlike the Klingons, who pretty much eat, sleep, and bathe in their armor. As for how they address themselves as a third house, indicating that they're a diverse society broken up into several different cultures, and and they are probably a more capitalistic style of society, if I had to guess. And therefore, any sort of technology we offer them, they may turn around and try to turn to their own selfish means. More Ferengi rather than Vulcan. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Reed.
It's always best when you have to talk to yourself.
Agreed.
So actually,
I need to actually create a secondary character at some point. Yeah. That's a project for this week.
Yeah.
I knocked mine out in about half hour. Doesn't take long.
Yeah, it's real easy. So actually, Jisa is going to pipe up once Zareed is finished, and she says, based on their body language, sir, I get the sense that they, and again, this is very circumstantial, but my guess is they might be a matriarchal society rather than a patriarchal.
That is a possibility. Their leader was female, after all.
Female, as far as we know, Captain. But
yes.
You see with other Federation races, this differs variedly.
Yes, it's even though the Academy tries to drum it out of you, there's still preconceived notions on how other species, sexes and genders work.
Infinite diversity in infinite combinations, Captain.
An infinitely logical way of looking at the universe, Mr. Panek. Very well. I shall, if there's nothing else, then I shall reach out to their captain and see if we can extend this to be a two-person exchange. And
I volunteer, says Merthrin.
I'm sorry, Mr. Merthrin. They've requested my presence, and I'm going to see if I can't bring along Miss Shatsu. However, if they prove friendly and are open to a more open dialogue, then you shall be on the short list. In the meantime, feel free to ask them any questions you may have. Their delegation will be coming over as I go over there.
Alrighty.
And I would also appreciate you using your unique Beta Z talents if you're comfortable in doing so.
Well, The advantage of not being particularly skilled, it's very hard to spot anything I'm not supposed to.
Understood.
I don't know if anybody else has seen this, but I've heard of a officer exchange and sometimes an XO exchange, but a captain exchange?
It's a tour.
Well,
It's a tour behind on a vessel where the captain is not able to be beamed out at a moment's notice. Although,
With that in mind, Captain, I would suggest bringing several pattern enhancers along. If properly modified, we might be able to punch through their hull plating.
out of curiosity, based on the scans that we've seen, would it be possible to do a site-to-site transport inside their vessel?
I'm gonna say that Mirthrin and Locke, you are guessing no.
They didn't seem to have transporter tech anyway.
I would not be comfortable attempting any kind of transporter reintegration through that hull plating.
Very well. Yes, I had wondered if it was possible to keep the shuttle running, as the term goes.
Well, I mean, a shuttle, it's probably going to have to be a literal shuttle.
Well, absolutely. Keep the shuttle inside their shuttle bay. And if worst comes to worst, do an immediate transport to the shuttle.
Well,
you have to be pretty close. I mean, from what we can tell, I think the bulkheads are made of the same material.
Yes. Well, just a thought. Very well.
Well, I believe bringing pattern enhancers along would be an apt enough workaround for the transporter problem. From a cultural point of view, I don't know how this will be seen by them. I believe we should go in first with them as a matter of faith to trust them so far.
Agreed. Well, they'll have our captain, and you'll have theirs. Hopefully, that's enough of a reason to return one another intact.
well, and just in case all goes, well, to hell, we always have the Mirthrin maneuver.
Mirthrin's eye twitches.
Should I load up the shuttle with some extra antimatter, sir?
That
Yes.
will not be necessary.
No.
If that is all, Captain, I would like to begin ship readiness for the tour and contact
Absolutely.
appropriate department heads.
Absolutely. Dismissed all.
Okay. So,
Mirthrin goes to triple check that the containment field on the shuttle's warp drive works.
all right, so I'm going to leave you guys on this map, so we're going to enter into a little bit of theater of the mind here. Captain, when you go to hail them again, at this point, the Xavoise ship has landed on the planet already, and they are willing to send up a shuttle with SKV, and that same shuttle will take you back down with one additional person to their ship so that the tours can go at the same time.
Probably the best bet. I mean, our shuttle is not going to be able to handle that atmosphere very well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. A wise precaution. Let's make that happen.
Okay. So, just so anyone looking at the tokens knows what's going on, anyone outside of the conference room in the void of whiteness is going to be either on the other ship or is somewhere like the shuttle bay. So out of curiosity, Captain Skull, besides Lieutenant Shatsu, are you going to have anyone in particular meet the Xavoise envoy when they step out of the shuttle?
I suspect Panek, obviously. Zareed as the diplomatic envoy.
I suggest Jessa.
Yeah, Jessa, and probably a couple security officers just by the main entrance, just in case.
Okay. So
With Panek, with you on their ship, Panek leading the tour, would you want me to take control of the bridge?
Well, the last time you took control of the bridge, you prevented the ship from blowing up. So I think you've got a good track record backing you up on that recommendation.
I feel so attacked.
No, I'm referring to the Romulan smuggling vessel, the Romulan ale smuggling incident.
The Romulan rum runners?
Yes. So
Nice
yeah. So Beckett would have the con unless a medical emergency is needed.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Romulan rum runners run rum around the Romulan neutral zone.
Running rum rampantly.
Oh dear. All right. So as has been determined, Skull, Shatsu, Zarid, Jisa, and Panek are all going to head down to the shuttle bay, while Beckett goes back to the main bridge. Murthrin, I'm assuming you're going back to engineering, maybe?
Yep.
Okay. And Locke, are you heading back to the bridge as well?
Yes. I'm going to do what I can to figure out a transport through the hull, if absolutely necessary.
I'm guessing they'll bring me onto the tour when they need someone to sort of explain the basics.
Okay. So,
yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry to cut you off. Yeah, that would definitely be something. As soon as we get out of earshot of everybody else, as Locke and I are going back to the bridge, yeah, I'll reaffirm what he just said. Like that's job number one. I want you to try to find a weak point, some way that, you know, if all hell breaks loose, that we can get them out as quickly as possible.
Yes. Maybe if I use some of the particle energy from the nebula in the transporter buffer.
That, whatever you think will work.
All right.
Can't we just wait until they actually betray us before we start treating them suspiciously?
That's not in my nature.
Okay,
just
because they're not just because you're not paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you.
It's not paranoia if they were actually out to get you.
I'm just saying.
If their intentions really are that dishonorable, I'm sure it'll pop up the moment I run into them.
Yeah, now, remind me, Murthrin, are you a telepath or an empath? I always get them confused.
Empath.
Okay.
It's a case of he's got the empath thing, and narratively it's a case of he's full Beta Z, but he never really developed the full telepathic ability.
Gotcha. Okay. So with all those sidebars handled, maybe, Skal, Shatsu, Zarid, Jisa, and Panek, you all travel down to the shuttle bay to await the arrival of the Xavoise delegation. And you wait maybe about 10 minutes before a shuttle of the same kind of configuration as the main ship, very deftly and expertly is led into the shuttle bay. And it comes to a rest, and a ramp opens up, and descending down the ramp is the individual known as SKV, which means I can now put her token on the board. And she has with her what appears to be just one more additional person who is, you're guessing, probably the pilot. And SKV just kind of looks around the shuttle bay, looks at all of you, and walks forward towards the captain and stops a respectable distance away and nods her head and says, Captain Skull, it is a pleasure to meet you in person.
I'll take a step forward and nod my head in respect. Madam SKV, welcome aboard the USS Ophion.
Indeed. Well, if you will go with my pilot here, and she motions to the other individual with her, he will take you back to my ship where my own first officer will show you around.
Wonderful. I do a quick introduction of all the crew present before stepping on, before graciously allowing Miss Shatsu to enter the shuttle first so that she can make sure it's not rigged to blow up.
Okay.
And then once I get a bit of a nod from her, then I shall step on.
All right. So the good news is it's not rigged to blow, and it doesn't look like there's like any spiky instruments of death aboard, so Shatsu gives the all clear. So pretty much as soon as Skull and Shatsu are in the shuttle, the ramp begins to close and the shuttle begins to make preparations to head out of the shuttle bay. That just leaves Panek, Jisa, and Zareed with SKV. And we'll do the Ophion tour first, I think. So SKV just kind of looks very pointedly at Panek, who I assume the captain would have introduced as your tour guide, quote unquote. She says, I'm curious, Panek was it? What will we be seeing on this tour?
As this is a first contact scenario, I believe the tour will be limited to non-mission critical systems. On a matter of caution. The Federation has had past incidents where introducing unknown civilizations to our technology has not always had the best results, but I believe you will get an adequate tour, and I look forward to hearing more about your culture. You say you are part of a corporation?
Yes, the Jamedia Corporation. We are... Sorry, I have to look it up. There it is. We are purveyors of mining equipment and actual mining operations.
Is your entire civilization centered around this function?
No, it's simply the purpose of our specific corporation. Or rather mine, since I am the CEO.
Is there a particular title you would wish to be referenced by?
Not particularly. SKV by itself is fine enough by me. That is right, Skull. That is correct. She says, I am rather curious. You say that, and out of character, if I heard correctly or incorrectly, just let me know. It sounded like your society doesn't have corporations. Is that a fair assumption or a guess?
Well, I'm sure our envoy, Mr. Reed, would do a better introduction of our society. The Federation is a conglomerate of various species and civilizations that have come together for mutual development and protection. We no longer use monetary values for things, and corporations no longer truly exist in the sense. However, people are encouraged to develop themselves individually.
I see. Well, that's interesting. And she looks very pointedly at Zareed, almost as if waiting for an explanation from her.
Zareed now obviously was waiting for her time to speak. What a more accurate statement, ma'am, is that the Federation is made up of hundreds of worlds and several species and civilizations. While the core worlds are typically want for nothing, there are several corporations that still act in the service of profit. Indeed, there is an entire race known as the Ferengi, whose culture literally centers around the acquisition of more profit and wealth. The Federation maintains trade with several other interplanetary alliances, each of them having their own monetary systems and corporate cultures. It would be unfair to say that the entire Federation has moved beyond the need for money and wealth. Indeed, there's still a great need of goods being transported from planet A to planet B, but much of it is now done through trade agreements rather than a simple buying and selling of goods.
This is all very interesting. Perhaps we should walk and talk.
Yes.
I'll hold out my hand and kind of motion towards the doorway. After you, please.
Of course. So SKV proceeds through the doorway, and I'm assuming you all follow her. Obviously, Panek, if you're leading the tour, you do have to be a little bit in front of her. Otherwise, she's just kind of like walking aimlessly.
As soon as we get into the hallway, I was going to take over.
Okay. So yeah, small correction is that the Ferengi isn't part of the Federation, but very small minor change. So SKV, as you're walking, kind of turns to Zareed and asks, "So, what do you use as currency, perhaps? We use a gold-like substance that is found only on the core main world of Xavoise Prime. But what is it that you and the Federation and maybe the Ferengi use as currency?"
Typically, for most monetary gain, and one, you can probably thank the Ferengi for their widespread influence of spreading this particular currency throughout our section of the galaxy, is a element called latinum. I'm just a cultural envoy. I don't know much about the metallurgy behind it, but it's my understanding that latinum's molecular makeup makes it very difficult to forge or replicate.
Replicate? What do you mean by replicate?
And she looks at Zareed looks at Mr. Panek with a bit of a shocked expression on her face, thinking, "Oops, I've just said something wrong."
Sorry, what was that? What did she say?
This species doesn't know what a replicator is.
The Federation has the ability for matter replication. We can break down a material component into atoms and then reconfigure it into a different configuration to suit our needs.
That sounds wondrous. I would love to see this technology if it's possible.
I can demonstrate it for you. However, I will not be able to provide you with schematics for this, as this is a protected technology under the Federation Charter. And as we've just come into contact with your species, we need to have more deliberations before we share this kind of technology with you.
Oh, there's a saying that the Xavoise have, and it goes something along the lines of, "Never show your opponent at the dealing table what you have up front. You want to enter into negotiations with an upper hand, and based on what you've just said, I think you have the upper hand here."
Trust me when I say, madam, that Vulcans are quite adept at poker, and I have not shown you even a tenth of my hand yet.
Well, if
I have not even begun to fight, sir.
And I'll lead her over to a replicator, and then I'll say, we have installations, we have equipment like this installed throughout the ship. This one is for personal use. However, we have larger scale ones that operate on the planet. We have termed these industrial replicators. They are able to I've blanked on the word now. They've recombined material on a larger scale for industrial purposes. And then I'll order a Vulcan mocha just to be on the safe side.
Okay. So the replicator begins to light up and shimmer and give that low hum, and sure enough, a Vulcan mocha materializes in the replicator, and SKV kind of lets out a ooh as she sees this happen.
Just to be on the safe side, madam, are there any dietary restrictions that we should be aware of?
Honestly, I'm not sure. Perhaps, do you have a doctor aboard your ship?
We do. Perhaps we shall make the bridge the next stop, where he's currently in command.
It's fine by me.
I'll reintegrate the mocha back into the, dematerialize it in the replicator.
Okay. Tell you what, I'm gonna do this instead of keeping us on this map since we are going to the bridge. Let me just put everyone onto the bridge that should be there. So Skull, you're off. Beckett, you're in command. Murthrin, do you want to be in engineering or on the bridge for this?
I'm going to say on the bridge. Murthrin's keen to meet these people.
Okay. So where are you? Engineering. Where are you? There you are. So you would be there. And then who am I missing from this page? I'm missing Zareed. That's who I'm missing. So Zareed's here and Jesus here. And then of course I have to drag Xavoise onto the map. All right. So I will put you guys back on this map. The delegation that is with your guest walks onto the bridge, and Xavoise just kind of looks around the bridge and says, "Oh, this is very impressive looking. Tell me, what purpose does that serve?" And she points at the view screen.
It is a screen that allows us to display various images that we deem relevant at the current as a situation provides.
Oh, so it is a similar nature to our holo projectors then.
Something very similar, not quite as extravagant, I would say. We also have holographic technology.
Might be an interesting stop on the tour if we have the time.
Could see to it, and I'll make a motion to Commander Beckett that he's to remain in command of the bridge as we're here.
Okay. So, Beckett, out of curiosity, or even Locke, I guess, or Murthrin, the question's really open to the three of you. Do any of you add anything to this conversation? Do you perhaps...
Murthrin would probably flick the view screen between their ship and a view of the planet and then a view of D-Space just to demonstrate how it works.
Okay.
And at some lull in the conversation, Murthrin would probably sort of lean in and go, "So I'm really interested in how the material construction on that hull works."
So Xavoise just looks very... she gives you a nice warm smile and she says, "Well, it, again, is a commonly found element in our home system, and it is simply a material we're very much used to working with."
It's a common element, you say?
Indeed.
I am sure there are people within the Federation that would be interested in establishing a trade for this. This material seems to have very interesting properties when it comes to hull composition and shielding.
We have found that it allows us to mine and otherwise explore the more dangerous planetoids out there. Yes, perhaps this could be the start of something good. And Beckett, to answer your private question before it gets too far out of hand, I'm going to say you could pull out a tricorder and try to sneakily get a scan, but I would have you roll some sort of sleight of hand type deal if you wanted to keep it secret.
I was more thinking of using the controls on the captain's chair to see if maybe having the ship do it instead of... me pulling out a tricorder and scanning her is kind of what I meant by, that's kind of obvious and obnoxious.
Yeah, I got you.
But no, just using... Because every captain's chair has some sort of controls on it just to get, read life signs readings, things like that.
Okay. I'll say, yeah, you can certainly do that from the captain's chair. Is there any particular information about her that you'd like to know?
Just general biology, and that sort. Even if it's something like scanning it and dumping it into a file that I can look at later, it is perfectly okay with me. I just want to know more about them because we've never seen them, and with xenobiology being a specialty, I want to know more about all the races that I don't know.
Yeah, that's very understandable course of action.
Meanwhile, Bertrand's just talking animatedly of Xavoise letting him.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Oh,
yeah, and that's why I figured Murthrin is being the perfect decoy for me to do this.
Oh yeah. I would
Locke would
definitely
have
agree.
also tried to scam the crap out of her when she came on the bridge. So for me to roll that separately or kind of an assist?
Let's do it as an assist. And I'm
I
only.
love
Oh, go ahead.
I love the fact that I'm not the only one thinking like this.
Yeah, it's always good. So Beckett, I'm gonna have you do a control plus medicine. Locke, you will assist with a. I'm gonna call it an insight plus science. And since the ship is assisting, oh boy, let's call it a sensors plus medicine. So the overall difficulty here is only going to be a 2. So this is a good momentum generator.
It's funny that you guys mentioned that we all do things differently because she's so amenable. I would have probably just asked for permission.
Locke
So,
was trained in a kind of a.
I'll get the ship. I'm doing it right now.
Okay.
And you for the ship you said
Sensors plus medicine.
Okay.
Okay, so you just get the 2 successes you needed. So again, if
once again, the Ophion is just not backing us up with its sensors here.
Yeah, just not today. It's just not in the cards. So again, if there's any specific information you want to know, just shout and I'll give it to you for free. But basically what I had in mind for the Xavoise as a species is the most interesting information, at least in my mind, is that their spiral-like protrusion on the back of their heads is both a defensive measure and a sort of a cranial development. If you had to analyze, I mean, just very brief look at what you're getting back at the sensors, they might have either somewhere between 8 to 10 lobes of the brain. In fact, you're actually kind of curious if they either have some form of telepathy or other, kind of quote-unquote paranormal abilities that would explain why they have such an enlarged brain.
At the even thought of telepathy or anything like that, Becca just makes no motion other than just slowly closes his eyes like, I'm gonna get caught.
Okay. One more thing I'll give you, and again, you can ask a question for free. The other thing that I'll give you is that, much like the Bolian, well, not Bolian, but Bolians, they can, of course, consume, quote-unquote standard Starfleet rations or drinks or food. However, they basically have toxic waste. And definitely as the CMO, you're going to not recommend anyone swap spit with her.
Good to know.
Looking at you, Locke.
God damn it, more shipping.
But yeah, is there any other little bits of information you wanted to know, or, either Locke or Beckett that you guys wanted to know before I have Murthrin do a roll for him?
Any signs of explosives in their body, like the Romulans?
No, there are no microexplosives in her body.
My question, it's funny enough, my question was going to be along the same lines of any weaponry.
I mean,
you people are so suspicious.
I know, right?
I mean, just looking at her, some of the sort of spiky protrusions along her arm might be particularly vicious if they were like swiped across skin, but it's not like she has giant tusks or cuttlefish kind of mouth tentacle type things. It's probably one of those things where she could maybe do a bit of slashing to certain people if she really wanted to, but you're not like picking up retractable claws or hidden blades or things of that nature.
And then obviously looking at her, she's not. There's no weaponry on her.
No.
Okay.
it's one thought does cross my mind. I turn to Commander back into Commander. It occurs to me that since we didn't use the transporter for this contact, there's been no removal of any potential pathogens. Not
And
that I believe
get real big.
the CEO is infected anyway, but we do have no idea of any bacteria in her culture or our culture that might have an adverse reaction.
I mean, I'd assume the shuttle board there's like a standard sweep for pathogens as people come on.
I would say that it's a good thought, and I honestly forgot to take that into consideration. So to alleviate some worry, I would say somewhere between the shuttle bay and the bridge, you would have gotten some form of pathogen scan, which would then be reinforced by the one you guys just took on the bridge. To your knowledge, she's not carrying any viruses. She's not carrying any corrosive material. Like, she can't like spit and cause bulkheads to dissolve. Again, as long as nobody starts making out with her, it's not going to be a problem.
It's just a species that evolved in a slightly harsher environment.
Correct.
If they're all finished being paranoid here, I'm going to direct her to the holodeck. And
Okay.
As we are in the turbo lift, I'm going to say, I'm quite curious to learn more about your culture, Scabby. Outside of the corporation that you own, what is your society like?
Oh, well, we are, from the sounds of it, rather similar to these Ferengi. We are a free enterprise society. We have, to put it bluntly, a material focus in our society. Obviously, those who have more are tending to be the higher power in society. For example, the Jamedia Corporation, even though we may have our own ships, we are actually not considered a huge player in the terms of politics and policy making. That sort of honor is designated to the quote-unquote mega corporations, which hold vast amounts of territory, wealth, and material.
I can see where we shall butt a few heads as you come into contact with the Federation. We have developed past material gain. Well, not all of us, but most of us.
Oh.
I may not know this one freighter captain, let me tell you.
She kind of smiles at you, at Panek, and she says, well, if these replicators that you've just shown me are as prevalent as you make them out to be, I certainly could understand that. It's hard to be a materialistic society if everything you could ever want is literally at your fingertips.
Not everything. There have proven to be a few molecular chains that are unreplicatable and require traditional acquisition. Speaking of, I'm quite curious about your power source that we detected. What exactly, how exactly does that function?
Well, so she opens her mouth and begins explaining, and this is where we're going to do a cut to the other ship. So Skull and Shatsu, the shuttle pilot, is very courteous, and inside the shuttle there are what looks to be about 2 rows of seating. So this is obviously like a personnel shuttle. So, you guys take your seat, and the Xavoise shuttle kind of goes out of the Ophion's bay, begins descending into the planet's atmosphere, and it's a very smooth ride. Honestly, the only reason you note that you've descended through the atmosphere is you just kind of look out the window and see it. The inertial dampeners on this thing appear to be very good. And eventually you see looming above a particularly nasty-looking lake made of probably pure mercury. You see the Xavoise ship, and the pilot navigates you into their landing bay. And meeting you is an individual who is, again, a female. And she just kind of nods her head as you step out of out of the ramp, and she says, "Greetings, visitors from the Federation. My name is Azina, and I am going to be responsible for showing you around our ship."
A pleasure to meet you, Miss Xena. Might I present my Chief of Security, Lieutenant Shatsu?
Pleasure. It's Izina, sorry.
Hi, Xena.
So she looks very questioningly at Shatsu and says, "Well, this is interesting. You have spots, and she has ears and a tail. How many species are there in your Federation?"
The Federation is made up of several hundred different star systems and several species. Last I recall, there was roughly 87 separate species that are official members of the United Federation of Planets, and another 30 some odd that are currently either in serious trade negotiations with us or are close to signing on.
Interesting.
Yes. I myself am from a planet known as Trill, and Miss Shatsu here hails from a species called the Cations. Might I ask what your species is called?
We are, of course, the Xavoise.
Xavoise, thank you.
And we hail from the planet known as Xavoise Prime.
Might I ask how many star systems your race claims hold?
We have holdings across 10 different star systems. Obviously, they are rather close to our own, but this does make me wonder, Captain, how far does the Federation territory expand?
If I had a map of the galaxy, I could definitely demonstrate. But we take up a significant fifth to a quarter of the galaxy, that we call the Alpha Quadrant. Several hundred light years from end to end. It would take even at traveling at high speed, it would take several months to head from one end to the other.
Fascinating. Well, if you'll follow me, we can begin the tour.
Absolutely.
My superior, Escavi, as you know her, said that I should at least show you, at the very least, our engineering department. And following that, it is my belief that I should let you decide what we see next. You start to follow her out of the shuttle bay and deeper into the ship. And very important to note is that they don't have turbolifts. They have what are basically ladders and staircases that lead to different decks of the ship.
So they don't even have elevators, eh?
They do, but they're more closer to the cargo bays than they are to anything else.
I've got to check back when we were on, but I'm assuming Mertrin didn't get anything sort of suspicious off SKV during the conversation.
Yeah, that's what I was going to have you roll for. Yeah, you didn't pick up any undue emotions, and you wouldn't have detected any form of telepathy, or rather, if she did have telepathy or empathy or some other kind of psi rating, quote unquote, she's either hiding it very well or just simply does not have one.
Yeah, basically, she didn't have a giant invisible sign of her head saying, "I'm being sneaky."
Exactly.
She could be immune to it, like the Ferengi are, though.
It's a possibility.
As we are making our way to engineering, I'm just going to try to make small talk with Izina. Are you the... I'm interested in your relationship. Are you the captain of this vessel, or is that a Miss Escavi?
The ship definitely belongs to Madame Escavi. I am simply her assistant.
I understand. And I must say, we've been out in the sector of space now for at least several months now. and yours is the first species that we've encountered native to this area of space. Are you in active communication with other species?
We are, we know of a few that border our current holdings in space, but the only species that, guessing based on what you've told me so far about your Federation, we very briefly came into contact with the Cardassians, if you know who they are.
Yes, we are very familiar with them.
We came across one of their ships about 5 years ago, and to put it bluntly, they were not exactly the best first contact we ever had. We left on very terse terms, and we haven't heard from them since.
No, the Cardassians have proven to be a very militaristic mindset. We hope that will change in the future.
So, at this point, you arrive at the engineering section, and it is very similar in nature to a Romulan design, simply because I only had but so many references to go on. Mm-hmm. So the main difference, though, between the Romulan and the Xavoise design is that instead of an artificial singularity, they use a slightly different antimatter-matter reaction. Instead of dilithium, they use a different substance. If you really want me to come up with a name for said substance, I can, but it's one of those things where I just did not come up with the technobabble for it. It is something that it would be a good comparison would be that their dilithium equivalent would be something that is, again, very rare, and while it could perform the same deed as dilithium, is something that is cost prohibitive. But here it is on this ship, being used, quite freely.
I'm, just to refrain from technobabble, just to keep the GM sane, I'll refrain from actually RPing any of that. But I am going to mention, so we have noticed that in comparison to our own ship design, yours is radically different. Obviously, the trials of mining from these type of planets necessitate such a design. Is such materials common throughout your fleets?
Yes, it is. We are in a system that has quite the abundance of said materials.
Fascinating. Throughout our entire Federation, with all of our combined resources, your ship is still made up of materials what we would call extremely rare and valuable. While I certainly do not possess any negotiating powers within my Federation, if you seek to launch a trade deal with us, I have a suspicion that these materials may prove quite valuable.
Oh, I'm certain that Miss Xavoise would be, or not Xavoise, Miss Escavi would be very happy to know that. And it's at this point that we're going to cut back to the other side of the ship, and we're going to go like another 5 minutes, guys, before break, so don't worry, I haven't forgot. So back on the Ophion, Escavi has finished basically communicating the same thing that I communicated to the captain, that, they use a certain different kind of crystal, yada, yada, yada. And it is at this point that you have arrived at the holodeck.
This is one of our holodecks, Miss Escavi. As I've said, we too possess holographic technology. But our advanced this capability is not limited to this room. However, we have projectors throughout the ship that are able to project a holographic rendering of anything we need.
That must be very costly to make.
It perhaps, but our warp core seems to do quite well in supplying the correct amount of power.
In all fairness, the ship-wide holoprojector is a relatively new advancement.
Oh yeah,
And
most definitely.
one more from necessity than anything.
And
Most
then
definitely.
I'll lead her into the holodeck and say, as we've mentioned before, the Federation encompasses many species. And then I'll say to I say computer generate representation for all of the species in the Federation currently.
Visual, audio, or combined?
Visual, please.
Okay. So the holodeck immediately fills from wall to wall of all the different species in the Federation. And Escavi just
That's got to be an impressive arrangement.
Oh yeah, this is something that would probably take the poor set designers and costume designers weeks to do. But Escavi just kind of looks around at all the different forms and shapes and sizes, and she says, "This is really interesting. I I'm sure that your captain is being told much the same thing, but we have very limited connections with other species. So this is quite eye-opening."
I mean, to be fair, this does represent several centuries worth of exploration and meeting other species.
And quite a number of altercations and strife. It did not come easy to make these connections, but each of these species have come together to better all of us as a whole.
Well, again, as it is sometimes said on my planet, a good merger only comes after a great conflict.
Have the Xavoise seen much conflict?
Not with other species, no, but we are, again, not knowing too much about these Ferengi, we are rather self-challenging. We are, again, being a materialistic society, again, those who have more tend to have better powers, so there is a drive and a pursuit for more material wealth and possession.
Lieutenant Jessa, Mrs. Reed, are there any suggestions you should make as to our next stop?
Well, I suppose we could give a brief tour of either the astrometrics lab or one of the engineering bays.
I was just about to suggest that, Lieutenant Commander. The astrometrics lab would be a perfect place for Miss Escobar to understand the full scope of the Federation, as well as possibly allow her to show us more of her species territory.
Very well, please follow me.
All right. And that is where we're going to take our break, guys. So it'll be about 5 to 10 minutes, and be back as soon as you can.
Alrighty, see you in a bit.
All right, I'm back. Oh, I saw Panek light up there for a little bit.
And back.
Cool. So I know I have Panek and Beckett, or Panek and Murthrin. Beckett, Skull, are you guys here yet? Survey says either no or they can't hear me. Probably both.
Oh. Well, Last Jedi was seen and was enjoyed.
No spoilers. No spoilers. As long as it's an enjoyable thing, I might go see it myself later, but I don't know. Star Wars was never really a big thing for me.
Yeah, the choice to have Luke marry Chewie was a weird one, but I think it works in context.
Oh, God.
I used to be really big into Star Wars, and I'm kind of still into the EU. But then, as soon as I was old enough to appreciate Star Trek, it became my new favorite.
That's understandable.
So much better.
What the Star Wars thing I'm having a lot of fun with at the moment is Expanded Universe.
Yep, that's the EU.
Yep. Like, not sure if any others here are familiar with it, but there's some guys who have a podcast called System Mastery where they review old, weird RPGs. And then they have a spin-off one where they review the Expanded Universe chapter by chapter.
I just got done reading through all the EU with a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And now I'm doing the same with Star Trek.
Well, they started with Shadows of the Empire, so I should give you an idea of what sort of quality of entertainment you'll be enjoying with that series.
I think the only ones I've read are the Heir to the Empire when they first came out.
I actually managed to get all three sort of hardback versions of those. Like, I found the first one in a secondhand bookstore one time, and I went, "This is good." And just over the next 3 or 4 years, I managed to pick up the other two one by one from various book sales all over the place.
That was the series that most of the fans thought should have been the next trilogy, correct?
Yeah. Yes. Mostly because it had Grand Admiral Thrawn in it, and Grand Admiral Thrawn is one of the most beloved Expanded Universe characters.
Only now he's significantly too old.
All right.
Yes, that one was set 5, maybe 7 years after the end of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, sounds about right.
What are we talking about?
Star
the
Wars of
Expanded
all
Universe
things.
and how weird and wonderful it was.
Oh, yeah. No, I loved a lot of the book series, or a lot of the book series I loved will never be in any of the movies, and if I talk to people who are diehard Star Wars fans, they absolutely hate all the book series that I loved.
Which one's
Ain't it always the way?
Yeah.
It is.
You just really a big fan of Chewie dying or something?
No. The X-Wing book series, I'm a huge Wedge Antilles mark.
Oh, yeah. The
I
X-Wing
love
series
Wedge Antilles.
is so great.
I've been meaning to pick those up.
And then Corran Horn, I Jedi.
That's definitely on the list for the Expanded Universe.
Oh yeah, no. If I bring up Corran Horn in anything other than the X-Wing series, even in the X-Wing series, I just get talked down to I don't know what I'm talking about with Star Wars. So
Starfighters of Adumar X-Wing book is probably my favorite because it's just the pilots just joking around the whole time.
It really is, and it's the last one in the X-Wing series, so it's the 4 names from Rogue Squadron that are always in the background, but they're the best pilots, and it's just them joking around and basically giving each other shit the entire time.
Yeah, my exposure to the EU consists of the Thrawn trilogy, the knowledge that Leia once fought a Dark Jedi Hutt, and 15 episodes of a couple of guys going on about how incredibly awful Shizor is.
Oh dear. Well, before we get too off track, let's bring it back in. So, mostly for sake of time, this might be a two-parter. I'm honestly not sure at this point. For sake of time, we'll say that the tour next stop at Astrometrics definitely is something that Xavoise is very wide-eyed and curious and in awe at seeing just how large the holdings of the Federation space is.
And like, we'll probably also go, and there's the Federation, and the reason why there's this weird dip here is because that's where the Romulans are, that's where the Klingons are. Cardassians were here, but then the Dominion War happened.
Yeah.
Actually, that's probably a good bit of RP. Sort of Murthrin will sort of be animatedly goofing. And the Cardassians are here, or well, they would have been, but they got really badly trashed during the Dominion War, so they're still recovering.
So we might have new neighbors then.
Sorry. While Murthrin and Zarita or Xavaise are talking, Zarita is going to try to catch Pinek's attention and just try to get him privately for a few seconds.
It's very easy to do.
Yeah. Lieutenant Commander. Lieutenant Commander?
Pinek?
Okay, maybe.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to Murthrin.
Sorry. Pinek's attention.
Oh god, yes. No one mentioned escargot to Xavoise.
Everyone was thinking it. It was only a matter of time.
Yes, Reed?
So I was thinking that it might be on one hand, it might be a good gift of friendship to offer her a copy of the Ferengi Rules of Acquisition, but on the other hand, that would mean might mean strengthening relations with the Ferengi instead of us, even though they are quite a ways away. I was looking for your input.
Well, I like the idea of giving her a gift. I'm unsure about giving her the Rules of Acquisition. This may have a negative effect on their society as a whole. They are corporatized, and they may get some ideas from this that are not quite holding within Federation values.
I'm of the same. Perhaps then instead it would be a good idea to present her with several contacts with the various Federation trade commissions and some of the larger trade corporations that would benefit the Federation. They do seem to be in possession of a lot of valuable minerals that would benefit us post-war rebuild.
True. However, as Mrs. Xavoise herself has pointed out, her corporation is not strong. The leading power of her people. I believe such deliberations should be withheld until a more permanent line of dialogue is established with their people. I suggest we give her a copy of the Federation Charter instead.
Very well. I shall see to it that she gets the nicest Federation Charter the replicators can make. And Zarita will excuse herself while she goes and makes the gift preparations.
Okay.
There probably is a standardized Federation gift package.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Gift baskets.
And as Beckett has
Got
just...
lots of shampoo and Shell. Sorry.
Yeah, she can't really use shampoo. And yeah, I'll fix this for next session, but apparently, Murthrin, you're a human on the overlay, so I'll have to change that later. Thank you for pointing that out. I honestly don't know how long that's been there, but yeah, Murthrin's definitely Betazoid. In any event, so that's what goes on with the Ophion tour for Captain Skull back on the Xavoise ship. In no particular order, you're shown their mining processing bays, which are capable of some limited refinement and quote-unquote packaging of raw materials. You're shown the cargo bays, if only because they are very prominent on the ship. And you see it's kind of like that scene in Indiana Jones where they wheel the crate into the big room of other crates. It's very daunting and impressive in its own kind of way. You're also... Oh, go ahead.
I've worked in buildings literally the size of 3 football fields where we just stack metal. So yeah, I know the layout.
Okay. In addition, you're also shown their crew mess, and their mess hall is about twice the size of 10 Forward from the Enterprise. You're also shown the main bridge, and it's smaller, obviously, than the Ophion's, but it is still a pretty nice layout. You get the sense that it's similar to old style, like early TNG style bridges. Mostly because I say that mostly because my research has yielded that most as we get along in the 2370s, they start to look more like the Prometheus layout that we have on screen at the moment. Mm-hmm. But you are able to ask any questions that you might have in mind. You might ask to be shown something else. It's up to you.
As I'm going through the various industrial portions of the ship,
mm-hmm.
Do the workers look like they're being treated fairly and well?
Oh, yeah. The Xavoise that you see that are on duty, moving crates and moving supplies that are coming in through their mining operations, you're definitely not seeing any shackles. You're not seeing any like ominous security guards keeping everyone in line. You see that they just appear to be a good, hardworking people.
Good. So it's not Tarek Nor style mining.
Yeah. Definitely not.
Good to know. I'm just going to let them guide their tour. They'll show me what they are most proud of. It seems.
Mm-hmm.
I would ask, let's see. So she's female. Escavi is female. I'm just going to ask, Miss Izina, I understand that our exposure to your civilization has only been one ship and one corporation. Is it common for females to take the top positions of power in your society?
Yes, it is. Would I hazard a guess that Trill or perhaps the Federation is male-dominated?
There are several cultures within the Federation where the male species has traditionally taken positions of power, but we now encourage all male and all females to excel and take positions as they see fit. Some of the
a matriarchal culture. Fun fact. Cardassians.
What's that voice inside my head? Is that Mirthrin, what are you doing in there? There are, of course, matriarchal societies. The Cardassians were one until the military began running the show, and there are still some within the Federation. However, we respect their culture, and so long as the males are treated fairly and well, we have no problems.
Well, you'll be happy to know that we, of course, have a handful of male CEOs, and in fact, one of the largest mega corporations is currently chaired by a male Xavoise.
Hurrah, progressivism!
Hurrah!
Yay.
Hurrah, indeed. I understand that it might not be within your power to give such information. I have asked my crew to provide your CEO, I guess is the best term for her, a decent amount of navigational and Federation star charts. Should you decide to expand in our general direction, you'll at least know what you're getting into and who you might contact. I was wondering if I could request a similar star charts and stellar cartography info from you about your species and your holdings. We don't want to accidentally blunder it into a major trade route and cause a diplomatic incident.
That's understandable. Unfortunately, we don't really have such information on this ship, but if I understand my superior correctly, so long as her tour on your ship goes well, I believe she's going to extend the invitation for you to join us back on Xavoise Prime, where we could get you such information.
If such an invitation is extended, I certainly look forward to accepting.
Interesting.
Until then, I'm interested in some of that food that you had, that I had seen in your mess hall. I am a bit of an adventurous eater, and many cultures in the Federation views food as a social activity.
It's very similar to ours as well. Come, let's try some things. And again, to kind of gloss over for the sake of time, you are treated to the equivalent of some hellish combination of Bolian and Klingon cuisine. So either it's still wriggling, or it has been fermenting or left out for quite a while.
Well, if it's
maybe even both.
It probably both.
If it's left out long enough, it will replicate.
I did not realize it was possible to ferment a live grub.
And yet here we are.
Oh, I see. Well, I'll look at it quizzically, and go, well, Beckett's going to like this when I get back, and bottoms up.
All right, I'm going to actually have you roll for this because I think it's funny.
It would be pretty amusing if the worst thing that happens during this entire thing is the captain gets mild food poisoning.
Oh, God.
And the war starts after he vomits on the first officer.
If you would roll me a fitness, I'll say either security or medicine. I'll let you choose. The difficulty here will be a 2.
Okay, fitness. Let's see, which is better here. My security is slightly better. Okay. And I may spend a point of momentum just to ensure I don't throw up.
Well, you've got 3 at the moment, so...
Yeah, now we're down to 2.
All right.
Let's see. I have diplomacy as a focus. Can I use that?
If you had composure as a focus, I would say yes, but not diplomacy.
Fair enough.
All right, so
it's not going to go so well.
Yeah, so you maybe get a few bites in, and almost immediately you get that kind of rumbling sensation and slight pain in your stomach that tells you that was not a good idea. You're not in any danger of, like, immediately losing your lunch, but you aren't exactly feeling great.
I should note that the symbiote allows me to resist a lot of different poisons.
Oh, yeah. You are definitely not poisoned. It's just...
not pleasant.
Yeah, it would be the equivalent of basically downing several pots of coffee and not having a very high-fiber diet. Basically, you're going to have the runs later.
Such a adventurous cuisine palate, and the aroma does not do the flavor justice. I am pleased to have partaken in such an exciting lunch.
Is Shatsu running the medical tricorder over him?
Oh yeah, she's definitely pulled out her medical her tricorder at this point and done a very cursory scan, and she very politely says to Izina, "Perhaps it is best we end the tour here."
I am in agreement, Miss Shatsu.
All right.
I am. Thank you, Izina, for extending your hospitality.
Of course, I was happy to provide it. All right. So again, for sake of time, the shuttle takes Skull and Shatsu back up to the Ophion, And Panek, your tour team meets them again in the shuttle bay. And by the time the ramp starts to descend, Skull is definitely a slight shade of green. And
I'll
Shatsu
raise
just
my
kind
eyebrow
of...
at this.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I just raise an eyebrow at this.
Okay.
I'll just motion later.
Yeah. Shatsu very pointedly makes a note that says, we need to get him to Beckett immediately.
They're an emergency, Lieutenant.
I wouldn't call it an emergency except for his for his image.
I may have taken a little too much diplomacy, and it's not agreeing with me.
I see, Captain. In that case, I will perform the formal disembarkation if you will continue on to the med bay.
Of course, Miss Ascavi. It was a downright pleasure to meet you and your assistant Izina on your ship. I wish nothing but the best for our species relations in the future.
Excellent, and please do feel better in the future.
Yes, while we are both friendly to one another, it appears that my digestive tract does not agree with your civilization's food, and nothing against your species at all. I was just trying to be friendly, and a little extra experimentation just went a little far. My apologies.
No, as they say on my planet, perhaps the best challenges are overcome by leaping before you think.
I make some sort of comment as I'm being rushed out the door by Miss Shatsu.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll see you soon.
I think I'm going to like this species.
Davi, it was fascinating meeting you, and I look forward to our interactions between our two civilizations.
Yes, well, I forgot to mention this while your captain was still present, but I believe it would be prudent that once we have wrapped up mining operations on the planet, we would be happy to escort you back to our home world, where perhaps we can begin some more formal process of some form of trading agreement or perhaps even treaty between our two species.
Mm-hmm.
I shall pass this along to our captain and make a decision.
Very good.
Do you have an estimated time for when your operations will cease?
We will be on the planet for another 3 days, and then it is a 2-day trip back to Xavoise Prime.
Sounds like plenty of time to do an in-depth survey of the other planets in the system.
I agree. Very well. Farewell, Mrs. Scavi. Live long and prosper.
Who knows? Maybe I can figure out a way to make the shields a little more resilient against. I've already forgotten the species name.
Xavoise.
Adjust the shields to make them a little more capable of handling Xavoise atmospheres.
Gotcha. Escavi very politely bows her head once again. You get the sense that the bowing thing is kind of like in Japan, where there's a certain level of bowing that represents a certain type of respect. But, after she bows, she heads back up the ramp of her shuttle. Shuttlecraft lifts up off the deck, soars out of the Ophion's bay. Meanwhile, in sickbay, it is at this point that Beckett, you have been called from the bridge to treat a certain captain who may have gotten a little too adventurous.
And Mr. Beckett, if you make any jokes about me not following Mr. Panek's advice about being cautious, I will hold you in contempt.
Well, Captain, I hate to tell you this, but it seems that you are now the host of 2 symbiotes.
I'm sorry, what? That was a joke.
I'm gonna love this. And I start scanning him and administering hyposprays to stop whatever reaction has happened. Captain, if I were you, I would confine yourself to quarters, at least for the better part of a day, to let this run out of your system. And believe me, it's going to run out of your system.
Well, that's the joys of being a Starfleet officer, is you have yourself to Jem'Hadar shock troops. Sometimes it's just a mess hall of an alien civilization we're trying to be friends with.
This is true. I would also, if I were you, I would apologize to Skull as much as you can for
I'm
looking for bringing him into this situation.
I'm not entirely certain my symbiote is classified as a he, but considering how unadventurous the last few years of its life has been, I think he's taking some sort of perverse pleasure, much like a certain chief medical officer.
Oh, Captain, my Captain, I'm taking no pleasure from this. I am simply doing my job.
And at this,
I'll note that in my
Ensign Vara does kind of stick her head in at this and says, sir, we could give him an antidiuretic.
Ooh, that sounds good.
You were correct. We could. Though I believe that the Exo would probably want him to suffer a little bit, so that way he learns next time.
And
But
Panek is
you're
present.
correct. I know.
I walked in and I asked for a status on the captain's condition.
Vara fills you in.
Lying on the bed saying, "Careful, these next few words could mean I charge you for mutiny."
And then, seeing he's not dead, I'm gonna fill him in on the Xavoise's offer to join them on their way home.
Well, I mean, we are pretty much done with this system, and this is the first species we've encountered out in this neck of the woods. Might I recommend that all meetings that the crew feed themselves well before setting foot on any planet or vessel? Cramps, stomach cramps, out.
And Captain, all jokes aside, I would say, as Chief Medical Officer, you are confined to quarters for at least a day. You are going to be in no shape to help us out for the next day.
I would. Skull tries to sit up and protest, and as soon as he gets halfway up, he gets quite nauseous and has to lie back down and goes, "Yes, Doc."
And then I'll turn to Commander Beck and say, "Commander, if I could have a moment alone with the captain, please."
Of course. Ensign Vara, why don't we head into my office?
Of course. So yeah, you head off to the office, which is like over here somewhere.
You're not going to lecture me about caution again, are you, Mr. Panek?
Not quite, Captain.
Thank God.
Seeing as I have you over a barrel now, I felt that our earlier discussion was perhaps a bit rushed, considering the circumstance.
I apologize if I was a little aggressive.
I would just like to assure you that as your first officer, my duty is to implement your orders, regardless. However, I also function as your advisor, and an advisor that refuses to advise is irrelevant. In doing so, I am not questioning your orders.
Of course, Mr. Panek, and we can talk more about this when my stomach has stopped dancing the cha-cha. But in replaying the conversation, it's quite possible I misinterpreted your intentions on the bridge. and I would like to apologize. Now,
I accept.
perhaps you could order a site-to-site for me to my quarters, please?
Very well, Captain. Connect to bridge. Or connect to transporter room 1.
Right away, sir. Shatsu says, and sure enough, Skull, you basically dematerialize and rematerialize in your quarters.
And now Skull runs. Bart and Skull will spend the next hour in the bathroom.
Probably more, but yeah. So yeah,
all over again.
Yeah. It is at this point that I'm gonna. It seems we're doing this a lot, but I'm gonna put us back on the bridge screen, and open it up to basically you guys have 5 days to RP as you wish before. Well, really 3 days before you need to make a decision officially and conclusively whether or not you are going to follow the Xavoise ship back to Xavoise Prime. During this time, I will say that if you do decide to go with them, Cultural Night will take place about a day into your travel. But yeah, the floor is open to anyone who would like to do any bit of RP with any of the crew, any of the ship, any with the Xavoise. It's entirely up to you guys.
I think Murthrin's just, hooray, we met an alien species and didn't blow them up.
It's a very good mood to be in.
Zareed's going to prepare a rather lengthy council.
Oh, you cut out there.
Oh, sorry. Better?
Yeah.
Zareed's going to work on a lengthy document to the Federation Diplomatic Corps, recommending that this species be aggressively pursued for various trade contracts before the Ferengi do reach them.
Okay.
As soon as the Ferengi reach them and they actually start talking actual profit instead of proper, some better goods for their goods, then we might lose the opportunity.
I gotcha. All right. Anyone else?
Locke's going to continue to examine the scans of the ship and see if there's any way at all to get a transporter beam, even a poor one, through, or just kind of generally looking at their technology and what we can figure out.
Yeah, I'm not going to have you roll for this because it would be like a difficulty 5 task.
Long-term thing.
So I'm going to say that unless you really do want to roll the difficulty 5 task, you're not really finding any venue to get the transporters to work.
What was worth a shot? So that's his busy project.
Okay.
I'm going to head down to engineering to talk to Murthrin.
Okay.
Lieutenant, seeing as how the rarefied material seems to be prevalent in this region of space, and it's quite interesting capabilities as far as hull construction goes. If we manage to obtain a portion of this, would it be possible to graft it somehow onto Ophion's hull?
I mean, restructuring the hull plating would require going into a dry dock and a complete refit of the ship, but I mean, I've been running a few sort of scenarios on my personal datapad, and I could definitely see us using some of these materials to reinforce hull conduits or the docking clamps. Like, there's so many. It's like the problem with these materials has always been finding out an efficient way to work them, and if these as Xavoise have developed those techniques, the applications, the mind boggle.
I would like, at your earliest convenience, you to write up a report of any ideas you have in regards to these materials and any advancements you can make to Ophion with them.
Oh, yes, sir.
And then I'll say goodbye and then leave. head back up to the bridge.
Okay.
I
sort
think
of goes back and thinking,
as
Ner-
Pinnock... Oh, sorry.
Neridium reinforced EPS conduits.
Shiny.
Even if we can't reinforce the ship itself, there's always like the shuttles.
Oh yeah. Make a tough
Yeah.
little ship.
Oh,
Yeah,
we have
make
that
a-
one that's already ablative armored and it's cloaked.
Oh yeah, we still have that, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then suddenly make it
Ooh.
torpedo proof. That'd be
I mean, the teleportation masking, that would be useful. I mean, putting the hull... Actually, yeah, that would be like the main downside to incorporating it into the hull plating, is once this stuff's lining the hull of the ship, getting transporters through is going to be a mission.
Mm-hmm.
But if you put the transporter emitter like outside, like kind of like a gap, you could, in theory, beam out.
Yes, I mean,
Couldn't beam in though.
yeah. Like if you had like a strategic weak spot in the plating where the deflector dish array is, and you could probably angle transporter beams through there, and then just have pretty tough plating along the top side of the ship.
Solid idea. If we get to that point, I'll have you roll for it, and we'll see what happens.
As
All of this, of course, contingent on a formal trade negotiation being established with the Xavoise.
Mm-hmm.
Which we are sort of equipped to do, being the representative Federation ship in this sector, but
We'll see. Captain, you were saying.
as Pinnock is going to get in the turbolift to head up to the bridge, it'll stop off on deck 2 and pick up Captain Skull,
Okay.
who is finally out of his room and back in proper uniform.
You're doing much better, Captain.
A day of bed rest followed by injections of various medicinal concoctions can do that to a person. I've had time to think though, and I believe that while based on my observations while on the tour, and I suspect yours on Miss Escava again on this ship, our ship represents a significant technological advantage over their civilization.
And a cultural one as well.
Agreed. If I believe that heading to their what was it called again?
Xavoise Prime?
Xavoise Prime would be beneficial for cultural and diplomatic exchange. However, I can't help but feel that all of their corporations are going to have their eyes on this ship. And we should probably come up with some tactical scenarios should one of their mega corporations decide that the risk of hijacking this vessel is not as great as the gains they could get from salvaging its parts.
It's a prudent action, Captain. We must take care to not contaminate this species, even though they are a warp capable one. They are distinctly less advanced than us, and giving them an overabundance of technological advancement could be detrimental to their development.
Agreed. I would think that such technological exchanges will should be under the purview of the diplomatic corps over the next several months.
I will take time to plan a course of a series of interference drills with Lieutenant Shatsu and Lieutenant Locke in regards to preventing any unnecessary, undue scans or attempts to take the ship, in case these mega corporations are perhaps a bit too materialistically inclined, I should say.
Agreed. Thank you for that. And I had an idea for Locke. What was it? Gone now. Oh well. It'll come to me at some point.
Speaking of Lieutenant Locke, Captain, he
yes.
seems to have quite the experienced background, I should say, in something other than communications. If you take to my meaning.
Yes, he has a history with Starfleet intelligence, most of which is classified even beyond my level. However, he's maybe a little paranoid, but so far he's been able to sharpen that paranoia into a useful tool rather than a misplaced knife, shall we say.
As long as he follows orders and maintains the values of the Federation, I do not see an issue. However, I shall be keeping my eye on him and his activities.
I would expect nothing less from a first officer. If you have any concerns about him, please let me know.
Aye, Captain.
And because turbolifts take precisely as long as critical conversations, the turbolift has now reached the bridge.
Exactly. Yeah. Doors open, and both of you are able to step back onto the bridge.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll say, for sake of argument, again, unless anyone has any pressing things they want to do, the next day and a half passes without really any events. Right as the Xavoise ship begins to leave the planet, it does hail you again, and Xavoise comes back up on the view screen, and she says, "Captain Skull, you seem to be in much better straits. I'm glad to see you're doing well."
Yes, my species has a very robust immunity and recovery system. I am 100% myself once more.
It would...
And I thank you for your concern.
Yes, it would not be good if our first contact ended in fatal poisoning. I again just wanted to extend the invitation for us to follow back to the Xavoise Prime system. Of course, I understand if you need to continue your mission of exploration. However, my assistant has informed me that you are interested in obtaining stellar cartography data. As she has told you, or at least by my understanding, this information I could acquire for you on the home world, but it is definitely not something we can have, or that we have on this ship.
Of course, the Federation, Starfleet, and the Federation's primary mission is to explore new worlds and meet new civilizations. The worlds will still be here for the next several years, I'm sure. So we can come back to it. Your species is very interesting to us. So we would be delighted to accept your invitation.
Excellent. I will have my helm officer get with your helm officer, and I look forward to showing you our home system.
I look forward to seeing it.
Yes. Xavoise out. And the view screen cuts off, and there's a small beep at Sona's console, and she just kind of looks at it, then turns around a little bit and says, "I have the coordinates, Captain. We will be following relatively close to their vessel. Not obviously enough that our warp bubbles will be connected, but we will be in a sort of formation at a maximum speed of warp 5, if that is acceptable."
Absolutely. Given how much this ship has done at high warp already, a nice leisurely warp 5 would do it good.
Aye, sir. And right on cue, the two ships, the Ophion and the unnamed Xavoise ship, get into a side-by-side kind of formation, and they both jump to warp at the same time. So it is now, during this 2-day period of travel time, that the cultural night will roll around. And I'm just curious, since there was some talk about it, which kind of event are you guys going to go with? Are you going to go with Locke's quote-unquote board game night, or are you going to go with Pinek's glorified horse racing type thing?
I think board games are later in April anyway, so Vulcan holiday?
I'm fine with the Vulcan holiday. The captain makes sure that it doesn't really involve himself in this, just because this is something that the crew should do and not him.
Okay. out of curiosity, and we'll have Panek do a formal introduction, but I'm gonna preemptively put you guys on this map. Who would be from the senior staff in attendance to this event?
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice. Captain as a non-participant. I'll just
Okay.
be in the audience for the time being.
All right. Obviously, Panek's there. Where's Panek? There's Panek. So Panek's obviously there. Anyone else from the senior staff?
Locke will be there to watch, I guess.
Okay. Locke will be there to watch. Beckett or Murthrin?
Murthrin, it would depend if someone tried to drag him along.
I think Prag will probably do his best to get you from going over the hollow emitters again. So Prag will go along, and he'll invite you to come with.
This time he was more kind of coming up with creative ideas for using all these new minerals. But yeah, he can. It doesn't take too much convincing to drag Murthrin along.
All right, so Murthrin and Prag. Oh God, big Murthrin. Murthrin and Prag will be in attendance. That just leaves Beckett. Are you going to be there as well?
Yeah, I will be there in attendance.
Okay. So, all of you head down to one of the main holodecks, and when you step inside, it looks like a stereotypical Earth-styled horse racing track, but obviously instead of horses, you see the green large felines known as lamatias. And there is perhaps 30 to 40 crewmen, obviously not on duty, that are in attendance in the stands and are otherwise waiting for the festivities to start. And obviously, Panek, it's your show, so I'm going to let you do the honors.
Thank you for coming. I would just like to begin by saying, while my people now follow the Scythia, or logic as it is more commonly known, before the awakening we had a varied mythology. One such belief was that of the Shakari. The closest analogy would be that of Earth's Judeo-Christian Eden setting. According to this myth, when the universe ends, all of existence will be swept away by fire. The Jarel Ne Koshtri is a symbolic race away from this all-consuming fire into the sanctuary of the Shakari.
So, there's polite applause from all present. And it's at this point that a crewman asks, an unnamed crewman asks, so are we all going to race, or how are we doing this, Lieutenant Commander?
I guess as many people can race as they want. It's all holographic. You just order up a new cat.
Do we ride the cats, or is it like betting?
You ride the cat.
Everyone nervously looks at each other.
Yeah, I was going to say, is anyone going to go for it?
And after a while, I think Murthrin just goes, well, may as well.
All right.
All right, fine.
Pick out whichever cat looks friendliest.
All right. Panek, I'm going to give you a red dot. Murthrin, I'm going to give you a blue dot. And Beckett, I think I heard, I'm going to give you a green dot. And that's going to be representative of your cat. Did anyone want to take purple, or should I run an NPC?
I think Zareed could take purple.
All right, yeah, let me grab Zareed and put her on here. All right, so Zareed will take purple. All right, so this is going to be a fairly simplified version of a race based on what I was able to find about the system. And the way it's going to work is everyone will roll a fitness plus con at difficulty 1, and it's going to be an opposed roll between all 4 of you. And basically, every momentum you generate is going to be one zone. So, for example, if you roll 2 momentum, you'll go 1 zone, 2 zone. So you'll be over in this area. I figured this is probably a good way in case someone does really good, they can play catch up. But otherwise, if there's like a tie, like if people roll the same momentum, we'll do a 1d100 roll, and whoever obviously has the lowest will be further ahead. And we'll get into more rule nuances if need be. But let me just add these cats to turn order, just so we make sure we've got everybody. Actually, let me do it by character instead. No, I didn't want the cats. I want Murthrin, Panek, Zareed, and Beckett. All right. So, I will say that you cannot use momentum, like global momentum from this. So you all, what this turn order will represent is your accrued momentum, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, all four of you get on top of your cats. Obviously, because they're hollow ones, they are quote-unquote trained and don't try to buck you off or anything. They look like they're ready to race. And Panek, since you are participating, I'll ask if Captain Skull wants to do the honors of firing the pistol, or if he wants to have an NPC or a hologram do it for him.
Oh, if there's a role of Emperor or starter guy, Skull.
Oh yeah, you can definitely be starter guy.
Awesome.
The handkerchief.
All right.
Okay, so Skull points the gun in the air and goes, "On your marks, get set, race!" Boom.
Boom. All right, so I need all four of you. I need you to roll me, as I said, a fitness plus con at a difficulty of 1.
So that's 1d20 or 2d20?
2d20.
It should be still 2d20. All right, so 2 from Fnek, 2 from Zareed.
Oh, whoops. Hang on. No applicable focuses for me.
All right, so Beckett's still at 0, and Murthrin's still at 0. All right, so let's resolve Panek and Zareed. Obviously, you guys are now in this quadrant. And my question, or rather what you're going to roll next, is you're going to roll a 1d100, the both of you. And whoever is the lowest will be ahead. All right, so Panex is going to pull ahead. And then we resolve the Murthrin and Beckett cat. So I need both of you to roll me a 1d100 to see who's ahead. All right, a 72. And an 81. So the blue cat is ahead. Poor Beckett is pulling up the rear. All right, so yeah, first leg of the race. Panek and Zareed's cat rockets ahead of the others. Beckett and Murthrin, you're having a little bit of difficulty getting your cats to go where you want. But maybe that'll change as things go on. So yeah, another fitness plus con from everybody involved.
Mm-hmm. Oh, whoops. I only did 1 dice. Let's try that again.
Okay.
And I had an extra one. Oh, that's a complication on the second one.
Ooh, so this is very interesting. So that looks like Panek and Zareed continue to race forward. So again, if you two would roll me a 1d100, we'll see who's in the lead.
As this all is happening, Panek not quite showing a lot of emotion, but there's the hint of a smile on his face.
Oh boy. Yeah, I can imagine him letting a little emotion show. So back with Murthrin and Beckett. Beckett, you finally do get into the turn, but you're going pretty darn slow. As for Murthrin, even though they are holographic and quote-unquote trained cats, yours just stops and lays down right on the track.
Murthrin just sort of throws his hands up and "Oh, come on" gesture.
All right, but yeah, that's your complication, is that your cat just decides it wants to sleep now. So yeah, another round of rolls, and we'll see how we're progressing.
All right, Murthrin sort of actually sort of hops up and just sort of like tries to nudge it from behind to get it to get up again.
Okay, I have an interesting complication if you roll one.
Let's see how we do.
Okay.
Nope.
Who are we missing? We are missing Panek. All right, so interesting. So Zareed is actually going to pull ahead from, if I read that right, yeah, you got 2. So Zareed, you're going to pull ahead of Panek. So you are about here. Panek is about there. And then Bishop or rather Murthrin and Beckett, if you would roll me another 1d100.
Alrighty, let's see how we do.
All right. So yeah, Beckett, you're still ahead. You're not quite into the next zone, but you definitely have some distance on Murthrin. And Murthrin, you've got your cat going again, which is the main thing. So yeah, at this point, both Zareed and Panek have made it halfway around the track, and another round of rolls from everyone.
Locke leans over to the captain and whispers, 5 Quatlus on Panek.
Captain looks over and says, if Zareed wins, you get to choose when you take a half-duty shift.
Deal.
No, wait, that's not how... Oh, shit. I'm not doing this gambling thing. Nope. If Zareed wins, you have to do a 1.5 duty shifts.
Oh dear, that is a complication.
Uh-oh. Well, I just had to jinx it now, didn't I?
Yup. All right, so it seems everyone but Beckett. So Beckett, your cat decides to slow down tremendously, and that actually allows Murthrin's cat to rush ahead just a little bit, not too far, but just a little bit.
Who programmed these cats?
Panek, you once again pull ahead of the pack, and I did see your PM, so don't worry. You pull ahead of the pack, and Zareed, you get to about here on the track when your cat stumbles and almost starts to roll over itself like a front-forward somersault. And I need Zareed to roll me a additional fitness plus con to see if she's able to avoid being thrown off of her mount.
All right. I'm guessing first contact against the ground does not work as a focus here?
No. Okay, that's all you need.
New life and new forms of bruises.
All right, so the good news is you're able to stay on your cat, but you did lose a little bit of ground. So again, I would like to remind, well, at least Zareed and Panek anyway, you guys have 2 momentum stored up. You could choose to obviously add dice to your roll, or you could create an advantage, which might help you.
I think Murthrin's gonna get a little bit sneaky and like use his knowledge of holoprogramming to think if there's any sort of quirk of programming holographic animals that he could sort of use to get an advantage here.
If you want to roll me a daring plus engineering, Murthrin, I'll allow it.
Yeah, that's a much better roll for me.
I'm going to make the difficulty a 2.
Let's see how we go. No.
Yeah, it's definitely not. I mean, you have a few ideas, but for example, like you know that maybe there's a little bit of preference for the left side. Unfortunately, it seems that Panek, who programmed this, took that into consideration when he did his job.
Darn.
Damn the diligence of Vulcans.
All right, so another round of fitness plus con rolls from everyone. And this could very well be the finish line. We'll see.
God damn it.
All right.
2 successes, finally.
Yeah, there you go. And another 2 from Zareed. Very good. All right. So the battle for the lead is almost neck and neck at this point. Both Zareed's and Pinek's cats are running almost like full bore. It's the last segment of track, and Murthrin, a little bit of ways back, you do pull ahead of Beckett, and we do have probably what will actually be the last roll from everyone, just to see who wins, kind of a thing.
Same rolls?
Same rolls, yeah. Still same fitness plus con. All right, so Beckett's at a 1. Zareed's at a 1. Pinek's at a 1. We're just missing Murthrin, unless I missed it.
Oh, whoops. Hang on. Thought I'd put that through. Fitness plus con, was it?
Yep.
No.
All right, yeah.
I think I'm going to take a swim in the lake.
Well, you're not that close, but yeah, your Murthrin's cat again just kind of drops back. As for the race for first, so Zareed and Pinek are neck and neck, and it's coming down almost to a photo finish. And at the last possible second, Zareed's cat pulls ahead, and she wins the race, with Pinek coming mere milliseconds behind her.
Woo! Yeah!
And
she's
then
loving this.
And then, obviously, Beckett, you would come in third, and Murthrin, you would come dead last, unfortunately.
I'm not good with animals, that's my excuse.
Woohoo! Just like the raptor races back home.
The what races?
Oh, on the Riemann homeworld, we have these nasty aquatic creatures called. Their full term is the they're known as the Silaraptorus species, and it was tradition for some of the more daring teenagers to mount them and try to race one another before they have to give up their life to the monasteries or whichever adult pursuits.
Sounds dangerous.
It's very similar to the Jarel Nikostri. It was a coming of age symbol that many young men and women would participate in during the festival.
It seems that no matter where you go, there's always people wanting one last dash of youth before consigning themselves to the apparent boredom that is adulthood.
All right. So up in the stands, Skull, I think you won your bet.
Yeah.
Double shift.
Double shift, but at least it'll be an easy one.
As long as it's not Gamma, right?
Nah, that just goes into Beta. Beta are cool cats.
I love how everyone shits on Gamma. Like we don't have any Gamma NPCs, and everyone just shits on Gamma. It's great.
Yeah.
I guess I know which shift I'm making my backup character from.
Well, I got a Gamma the first chance I got. Okay, Alpha. I haven't done Beta yet.
Or more so, when we do Below Decks, now we know which shift we're going to do.
Oh, yeah, you guys will all be notorious Gammers. Oh, dear.
Just as they're getting tidied off, Zareed's going to head up to Mr. Pinek and just say, I couldn't help but notice an uncharacteristic display of emotion from you as we were neck and neck back there, Lieutenant Commander. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone.
I appreciate your silence.
And she
It'd
just...
be untoward if rumors got around that I
smiled?
partook in enjoyment.
I think the crew would like you a lot better if you did. And I'll just turn and leave. No one will see me smile. The joys of playing a character not consigned to rank.
Oh, dear. All right. So, yeah, that was the race. We can do another round if you guys want, but I'm content to say that, obviously some...
Probably a few of the other crew members have a go around and
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So
had as much or as little luck as we did.
Yeah. Obviously, you guys are free to remain and place as many bets as you want. But that's essentially the cultural night for this go-around, was this whole experience. Obviously, you can flavor it and interpret it as you will for your own characters. But unless anyone has any really important, or not really, it doesn't have to be important, but if anyone has any specific RP they want to do in the remaining time between point A and point B in space, speak now or forever hold your peace, because I am going to skip ahead a bit.
I'm good.
I'm gonna take that list that Shatsu gave me of the people that she really appreciate showing up for her tactical briefings,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll pay them a visit in their quarters. And while not making it a mandatory thing, I strongly suggest that they participate.
Okay.
It's not mandatory, but it's mandatory.
All right. I'll say that since you are visiting them in their quarters, they're obviously going to be very receptive to the idea, because when the first officer or the captain comes to your quarters, you tend to listen. So yeah, that happens. Anyone else have anything?
No?
Nope.
All right.
I'm
Let's
looking forward to seeing this. Blue Blood Chlorine.
All right, we'll skip ahead, and I'll preemptively put you guys on this map just because it's a pretty map. 2 days later, the stars on the view screen finally shift back to normal as the Ophion finally arrives in the Xavoise system. It's a 6-planet system with a red giant star, 3 Class M planets, 2 Class Js, and a smattering of moons. Almost immediately, sensors begin to report a myriad of ships and stations in the area, ranging from simple transports to full-on mining processing centers, kind of like Terok Nor. Though not as obviously heavily armored as Escavi's ship, they all, ship and structure alike, appear to be made out of the same chronodite and nitrium alloy with magnesite plating. And as you drop out of warp, 2 vessels that are smaller versions of Escavi's ship break orbit from Xavoise Prime and begin to head in your direction. And right on cue, Escavi hails and lets you know, standard escort procedure, I'm sure you understand.
Of course. This is your space after all.
Indeed. And again, unless any of you start firing phasers or really doing something really wacky.
Let's warp into the home system and start shooting everything.
Yeah, exactly.
I hit the big red button.
Don't push the big red button.
Oh,
Activate
dear.
the Omega 13.
Oh, good old... Oh, wow. I won't go into it. I gotta stay focused. Anyway, so your trip to the planet known as Xavoise Prime is, under escort, but it's not like you don't feel condensed or pressured or anything. And when you get finally close enough to the planet to pop it up on the view screen, you almost have to double take to understand what you're seeing. You've certainly heard that some species turn their homeworld into sprawling megacities, but this is something else entirely. Even from orbit, you're able to guesstimate that the neon-lit structures encompass almost the entirety of Xavoise Prime's surface. Sensors seem to estimate the population to be somewhere in the 8 billion range, and that the atmosphere is thankfully more breathable than the Xavoise ship was.
It's like Coruscant.
I was going to say, if you want to think Star Wars, think Coruscant. If you want to think 40K, think of a hive world.
Sensors read it as definitely a megaopolis, Captain.
Well, this is one for the books. We don't have
Yep, you cut out.
Oh, sorry, I have a nasty habit. Back. This is quite an impressive amount of infrastructure. One has to wonder how long they've been at this level of civilization to have turned an entire planet into a megacity.
Something on the scale is reminiscent of the Borg that I witnessed during tactical briefings at Starfleet Command.
Well, thankfully they haven't asked us to be assimilated, so I would think that these guys have resources, but definitely not the malign intelligence that the Borg do.
I do what I can to pick up any signal traffic in the system. Just kind of start skimming the local signals and channels.
Okay. I won't have you roll for it. I'll give it to you for free. You're mostly picking up standard comm traffic between transports, between mining processing centers. There's obviously some personal chatter as well that is unencrypted. So almost like a 24th century equivalent of the internet, if that makes any sense. So there's a lot of...
We just had a sudden uptick at a alien spaceship.
Oh, yeah.
Dropping out.
Oh, yeah. There's obviously some references in the unencrypted channels of a curiosity as to what this unknown ship in their system's doing. But it's nothing like there's no secret plots that you're picking up of capturing the ship or destroying it or nothing of that nature.
I'm just kind of skimming their Wikipedia.
Yeah.
By now that we have a greater set of data points to work with, how does the vessel that we've been traveling with stack up to some of the other ships in the area?
I would say it is probably one of the more quote-unquote exotic ships. Most of the other ships you're seeing are definitely smaller than the Prometheus class is. So, but that said, you are picking up some ships that are like Sovereign class sized, of a similar configuration to a Xavoise ship.
Very well.
And to kind of wrap up the session, you finally get to orbit of Xavoise Prime proper, and SKV hails you once more and says, on behalf of my people, I'd like to welcome you to Xavoise Prime. I've gone ahead and paid your orbit fee, and to follow will be coordinates for you to land at the Jamedia spaceport on the surface. You may bring along as many crewmen as you see fit. And that's where we're going to end the session. So we're going to turn this into a two-parter. So stick around, my players, and we'll discuss some things more. But for anyone watching on Twitch and or YouTube, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.